And welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. It is a scandal rocking one of America's most prestigious universities. Penn State is in full damage control as the country learns more about a former assistant coach who is alleged to be a pedophile and apparently used the school showers to molest some of his victims. A full administrative house cleaning is underway. Reputations have been ruined, but has there really been due process in this case? What do we really know? The facts, not speculation, about the allegations engulfing Happy Valley. Defense attorney Reese Norris and WTIC AM sportscaster Scott Gray are here to discuss. Then we'll wrap things up with music critic Eric Danton. He'll tell us about some big names performing in CT this week. But first, one of the big names in college football, tarnished. Joe Paterno is out, Penn State. An evolving scandal, guys. Every day something new. Reese Norris, one of the more prominent attorneys in the state. Scott Gray, a six-time Connecticut Sportscaster of the Year. You two have never met. Two of the most prominent people in Connecticut meeting for the first time here. You're a matchmaker, Stan. Absolutely. What can I tell you? Sobering news, though. Penn State, and I want to cut through the chase on the report and talk about due process, because now we're a week into this thing. Has there been due process? Stories are changing every day. People have been fired. Shouldn't we have had some due process first before all the house cleaning? Reese Norris?
I'm offended that they released the whole grand jury report.
Why?
Because I think that it tainted people's opinion so much, as opposed to just having the charges. That type of detail usually only comes out in a trial. And the court of public opinion immediately judged Sandusky guilty in this case.
And Joe Paterno, too. Should he have been fired, Scott Gray?
You know, I really think that it had reached a point where they had no choice at Penn State. And I think, like you said, an administrative house cleaning is underway, and I think it's going to go a lot further. I think eventually what you're going to have to see happen is every member of the staff of the football team is going to have to go. They're going to have to start from scratch. This is going to have to be completely cleaned out from the bottom up. And whoever they determine will be the successor to Joe Paterno. And let's face it, there was a time when you didn't really want to be the man who replaces the man, but that whole situation has changed now, and whoever they bring in is going to have to be given a pretty free, he's going to have to be fully vetted, and he's going to have to be given a pretty free rein to be able to bring in people that he deems as respectable for this program and really change the entire face of the program, like I say, from the bottom up.
Now, child molestation charges are very serious, right? We know that the damage mentally, psychologically, and some of these folks end up doing the same thing again to other people down the road. So very serious. But right now, as of today, it's still an allegation. If Joe Paterno wanted to sue Reese Norris and say, listen, I was unjustly fired in Penn State or in Pennsylvania, the requirement, as I understand it, is if you hear something, you're supposed to report to your higher-ups, not to the authorities, not to DCF. He reported to the athletic director and the vice president. Legally, is he covered? Did he do what he was supposed to do? He heard a second-hand account, very horrible account. He forwarded it over. They apparently didn't do a full investigation. Should he have been fired for that?
Well, people have argued that he may have been sufficient illegally, but not morally. And I've heard that term used by many officials associated with Penn State, that they are holding him to a higher standard because he is in a fiduciary relationship with those children. Now, these are children entrusted to Penn State.
Well, how so if they weren't his kids? If someone say they're Sandusky's kids, he had that program, how are they entrusted to Joe Paterno?
Well, it was alleged that this molestation took place in the shower. And one has to ask, Joe Paterno has 17 grandkids. If he was told by McQuarrie that it was one of his 17 grandsons that was molested as opposed to some unnamed 10-year-old, would he have acted differently? I think he would have.
Scott Gray?
Well, you know, you talk about having been tried or maybe even convicted in the court of public opinion already. They haven't helped themselves. They've done this to themselves to a great degree. Why Sandusky's attorney would ever allow him to go ahead with that Bob Costas interview this past Tuesday night is beyond me. And it just did not go well. He put himself in the scene, at the scene of the alleged crime. He put himself in the shower with a young boy, mentioned that there may have been physical contact, whether it was of a sexual nature or not. He really put himself in that position. And Joe Paterno several times saying, we have to feel for the victims now, admitting that there are victims, that he knows there are victims, and he knows who they are. Yeah.
Let me talk to our lawyer about that, but first, let's look at the sound. Let's look at what Sandusky said in regards to this whole situation. This is Jerry Sandusky.
I have horsed around with kids. I have showered after workouts. I have hugged them, and I have touched their leg without intent of sexual contact.
Reese Norris, attorney, if he's your guy, does he ever get on TV to speak those words to Bob Costas?
I think his lawyer was totally incompetent.
What was he thinking about, Reese?
He's not thinking. He's certainly not a good lawyer, in my opinion. No good criminal lawyer would have ever allowed that interview to take place. It was incompetence.
Why not? It's too incriminating?
You don't have enough facts. And you're going to now put words in his mouth. As Scott just said, he's now placed him at the scene of a crime, naked in a shower with a boy. What lawyer would ever do that?
Well, how about this? How about if the strategy is this? He's conceding the fact that he's in the shower. He's conceding the fact he's with kids. He's drawing a bright line saying nothing sexual ever happened. The Michael Jackson defense. I'm in the bed with the kids sleeping, but no sex happens.
Well, a lot of people are going to argue that his denials basically re-victimize the victims in this case. I personally think that he did not help himself at all. It comes off as a creep. Public opinion now will be shaped a lot by that interview. It was an excellent interview by Costas. I'm sure he was shocked that he was doing it, but that did not help Sandusky at all.
If you were representing Sandusky, if he came to you and said, Reese Norris, I need some help, what would be your strategy?
Well, certainly I wouldn't let him talk.
Okay, but outside of that, how do you try to, what's your defense? What kind of strategy do you make out of what you know so far with him? You have a bad case here, right?
Yeah, you have a bad case, and you want to get as many facts as you can. There may be inconsistent statements. It's already been referenced to that in the media. Those are things you look for. Are witnesses recanting? Have words been put in someone's mouth? Is someone have an agenda? But you don't let your client talk. That is the cardinal rule in this situation.
Should this program be shut down, Scott Gray, for a little while, take a little pause and regroup?
Well, you know, I think the very first thing they should do, I'm a little bit surprised that they're finishing out the season. They keep talking about not punishing the kids in the program. Okay, they allowed the seniors to have their senior day with the game against Nebraska. If they do finish out the season, which apparently they are going to, I hope everybody involved has the good sense, even though they are bowl eligible, not to either offer or accept a bowl game for Penn State. I don't think they should be part of that mix. As far as next season, you know, if they'd say we're going to shut down the program for a year, what that would do, that would allow every player on the program, they wouldn't be punished, they could go to any other Division I program they wanted to and be eligible to play immediately. One of the interesting aspects of all of this, Stan, something I've been thinking about a lot, if Randy Edsall, for instance, had not left Connecticut,
I thought about it too.
And now he's in kind of a volatile situation in Maryland, but while he was here in Connecticut, he presented one of the most squeaky clean images in college football. There were a lot of guys, or not a lot, but there would have been a few guys who would have been ahead of him in the pecking order, but because of his ties to Western Pennsylvania, he was a guy on the short list, and because the other guys were like considered the power brokers of college football, big-time names, that's what they want to go away from right now. Randy Edsall might have been the guy.
He was whispered that was his real dream job. That was it was whispered when he was here in Connecticut that his real dream job was Penn State, waiting for Joe Pa to step down. We're going to take a break right now, come back with more of Reese Norris and Scott Gray. We're going to get their thoughts on what happens next in the continuing scandal at Penn State. What should happen next? What happens to Joe Pa? What happens to the program? What happens to Mike McCreary, the person who saw this? We'll hear from him. Don't go away.